He used to look at me like I didn't even exist, just a maid cleaning up after his mess. But now, he says I'm the only reason he's still alive. Funny how love can sneak in through broken doors, even when you think no one sees you. Hey, beautiful souls. If you love real, raw, emotional love stories, especially the kind where a strong black woman rises against the odds, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on that bell. Because this story, it changed everything for me, and it might do the same for you. My name is Talia. I'm 26, and if you had told me 3 years ago that I'd be living in a mansion, I would have laughed and asked if I was cleaning it or just visiting. Life doesn't always give you a clear path. Sometimes it just throws you into the fire and waits to see if you'll walk through it or burn. I was in one of those moments, broke, tired, and desperate, when I saw the ad, live-in housekeeper needed, discretion required. It didn't say who it was for, just an address, a fancy one, and a salary I couldn't ignore. When I showed up for the interview, I almost turned back. The gates alone looked like they belonged to a movie villain. Everything was cold, from the driveway to the way the woman at the door looked me up and down like I didn't belong. But I pushed through it. I had no choice. Rent was past due. My little sister needed school supplies. I couldn't afford pride. Then I met him. Dorian Black, the billionaire. He didn't even look at me, just signed the papers and said, "Stay out of my way and do your job." That was it. No handshake, no smile, just ice. I thought, okay, cool, rude rich guy, seen it before. But there was something else, something heavy in the way he moved, like the weight of the world was strapped to his back. I'd catch him sometimes, just standing at the window, staring at nothing, alone in a house filled with everything. I didn't know what had broken him, but something clearly had. And even though I told myself to just focus on cleaning and getting paid, part of me couldn't stop wondering, what happened to him? I settled into the job quietly. My room was small, tucked in the back of the mansion near the kitchen, far away from anything that felt like luxury. But it was warm, clean, and safe, more than I could say for the last place I lived. My days started early. I'd clean the grand halls, dust shelves full of books no one seemed to read, and arrange flowers that never got noticed. The house was beautiful, sure, but it was cold, not just in looks, but in feeling. It was the kind of silence that makes your chest hurt. No music, no laughter, just footsteps echoing and the ticking of clocks. Dorian was rarely home during the day, and when he was, he moved like a shadow, silent and distant. We barely exchanged words. He never said good morning, never asked me anything. It was like I wasn't even there. Still, I noticed things. The way he left certain rooms untouched. A child's room, perfectly preserved, like time had frozen in there. I saw the pictures on the wall, him, a woman, and a little boy, all smiling, all gone now. I didn't ask questions. It wasn't my place, but every now and then I'd hear him at night, pacing. One night I heard him cry. Not loudly, just quietly, like he didn't want anyone to hear. That's when I realized this man was broken, not cruel, not arrogant like I first thought, just shattered. And even though he barely saw me, a strange feeling started to grow in me. Not love, not yet, but something softer. Like maybe I was meant to be here for a reason I didn't understand yet. And maybe, just maybe, I could be the one to help bring life back to that house. It happened on a Thursday. I remember because Thursdays were deep cleaning days, and I always started with the music room. No one ever went in there, but it was one of my favorite spots. There was a grand piano, shelves of vinyl records, and sunlight that poured through the windows like honey. I was dusting near the piano, humming to myself like I always did. maybe a little louder than I should have. I didn't even hear him come in. When I turned around, Dorian was standing in the doorway, watching me. I froze. My heart jumped like I'd been caught doing something wrong. But he didn't look angry. He didn't say a word. He just looked. For the first time, I felt like he actually saw me. Not as the maid, not as some shadow in the background, but as a person. He stood there for a long second, then finally said, "What were you singing?" I hesitated, then told him it was a song my mama used to hum when things got hard. He nodded, didn't say anything else, and just walked away. But something had changed. The next morning, he said, "Good morning," as he passed me in the hallway. The day after that, he asked if I liked working there. His voice was softer, like he was trying. Little by little, the ice around him started to melt. I caught him looking at me sometimes, not in a creepy way, but like he was trying to figure me out, like I was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. And honestly, I was just as curious about him. It was the first crack in the wall between us, the first sign that maybe he didn't want to be alone anymore. It was a stormy night, one of those where the sky just won't stop crying. I had finished my cleaning early, and I was headed to the kitchen for tea when I saw a light on in the library. That room was usually dark, off limits, almost like a shrine, but something told me to peek in. There he was, Dorian, slouched in a chair, half a bottle of whiskey in his hand, eyes red, face pale. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. He didn't notice me at first. He was staring at a photo in his lap, holding it like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. I stepped back quietly, but then he whispered, "You ever lose everything and still wake up the next day?" I didn't know what to say, but I walked in anyway. I sat on the floor near him, didn't want to crowd him, just wanted to be near. That night, he didn't say much, but he talked more than he ever had before. He told me about his wife, Elena, and their son, Miles, gone in a car accident while he was away on business. He said he never forgave himself, that the house used to be filled with laughter. Now it was just a coffin with windows. I cried with him, quiet tears. I didn't try to fix it, just listened. After that night, I started leaving little notes around the house. Simple things. A quote on his coffee cup. A sticky note on the mirror that said, "Take today one breath at a time." He never said anything about them, but they stopped ending up in the trash. That's when I knew he was reading them. And maybe, just maybe, they were helping. A week after that night in the library, he surprised me. I was cleaning the sunroom, and he walked in, holding 2 mugs of coffee. Without a word, he handed me one and sat down across from me. I didn't know what to do. Maids don't sit and drink coffee with billionaires. But he looked at me and said, "Stay. Please." That please cracked something open in me. So I sat, and we talked. Not about anything heavy at first, just little things. How he used to play piano as a kid. How I used to braid my sister's hair every Sunday. He asked questions, listened, smiled even. The talks became a routine. Every morning, 2 mugs. One for him, one for me. I started looking forward to them more than I should have. One morning, he asked me, "What did you want to be before all this?" I laughed and told him the truth. I wanted to open a wellness center, a place where women, especially Black women, could come to rest, heal, and just breathe. He looked at me, really looked at me, and said, "You still can." Those words stuck to me like honey. No one had ever told me that before. No one had ever made me feel like my dreams mattered. Around that time, something shifted. I caught him humming one of the songs I used to sing while cleaning. He started wearing brighter clothes. He opened the windows more. The house didn't feel like a tomb anymore. People started noticing. The other staff whispered. There were looks. The maid and the billionaire? But we weren't anything yet. At least, not out loud. Still, I could feel it. That slow, aching kind of love that sneaks up on you. And I think he felt it too. It all happened so fast. Dorian had been pushing himself hard. Meetings, travel, sleepless nights. I could see the toll it was taking, but every time I asked if he was okay, he just brushed it off with that quiet smile. Then came the business trip to Chicago. He was only supposed to be gone 2 days. On the third day, I got the call from his assistant. He collapsed. They rushed him to the hospital. My heart dropped. I didn't think, I just packed a bag and got on a flight. When I walked into that sterile hospital room, I barely recognized him. Pale, tubes in his arms, eyes closed, machines beeping. I sat by his bed and held his hand. It was cold, too cold. The doctor said it was exhaustion, stress, malnutrition. Said his body had been breaking down slowly for months. I stayed the night in that chair, didn't sleep, just watched his chest rise and fall over and over again, terrified that it might stop. The next morning, his eyes opened. The first thing he said was, "You came," and then, "Don't leave me." That was the first time he showed fear, not the quiet sadness he always wore like armor, but real, raw fear. I squeezed his hand and said, "I'm not going anywhere." In that moment, everything changed. He wasn't my boss anymore. He wasn't just the man behind the big house and broken heart. He was someone who needed me, and I realized I needed him too, not for money, not for rescue, but because somehow, without even trying, we had become each other's safe place. And love, real love, it starts right there. In the middle of the mess, after he was released from the hospital, everything felt softer between us, like the walls had finally come down and we were just two people figuring out how to breathe again. He insisted I ride back with him, not as staff, but as someone he trusted. The car ride was quiet but not awkward, comfortable. He held my hand the entire time, just held it, like he needed to make sure I was still there. The house felt different when we walked in, warmer, like it finally belonged to someone again. That night, we sat by the fireplace, his favorite place, where I'd once seen him cry alone. Only now he wasn't alone. He looked at me for a long time, then said, "You didn't just clean this house. You brought it back to life. You brought me back to life." I didn't know what to say. My heart was beating so loud I was sure he could hear it. Then he got quiet. I used to think my story ended when I lost them. But now, I think it was just beginning. Because you, Talia, you didn't just show up. You saved me. I thought he was about to tell me to quit. I braced myself to be let go. Maybe because he felt too close, too vulnerable. But instead, he reached into his coat pocket. Not a ring, just a small folded note. It said, "Will you stay? Not as my maid, but as my home." I didn't cry right away. I smiled, then I cried. I had spent my life making other people's spaces feel like home. And now someone saw me as one. That night, I didn't go back to the staff wing. I stayed with him, and it felt right. Things changed after that night, but in the best way. Dorian didn't hide anymore. He didn't walk past me like I was invisible. He held my hand in the hallway. He laughed, like really laughed. The staff noticed. I noticed. One morning, he invited me to sit in on a business call. Said he wanted my opinion. Me, a former maid, giving thoughts on a multi-million-dollar project. I was nervous, but he looked at me like I belonged there, like my voice mattered. After the meeting, he said, "You're not just smart, you're powerful. You just never had anyone tell you that." That did something to me. It woke something up. We started dreaming together. He asked about my wellness center again. This time, he didn't just listen. He offered to invest. Not because he was trying to impress me, but because he believed in me. We would sit for hours planning, sketching, naming rooms, talking about spaces where women like me could rest, be seen, and be safe. Love wasn't just kisses and soft glances, it was respect, partnership, building something real. One day, he introduced me at a charity event as the woman who changed everything. The whispers were loud. People judged. The maid? She's not one of us. But Dorian stood beside me, proudly, like I was exactly where I belonged. And for the first time in my life, I felt it too. I wasn't just the girl who cleaned rooms and stayed quiet. I was the woman who helped a broken man heal. I was the woman who loved without asking for anything but honesty. And now, I was being loved in return, fully, publicly, loudly. If you believe love can bloom in the most unexpected places, share this story. You never know who needs to hear it today. And don't forget to like, comment your favorite part, and subscribe for more true love stories straight from the heart.